Hey, welcome back to the Wake Coaching Podcast. Yes, I nailed it.
Welcome,
so glad to have
welcome.
you back again today. We have another episode all queued up for you.
Sure do.
Yeah, can't wait. Why don't you share what we're talking about today?
Okay. Well, we have recently had a number of crucial conversations in our life.
Yes.
And so it really just honestly reminded us of the importance of having crucial conversations. And so we wanted to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Because of course, most of us, 95% of us, shy away from having these types of conversations with people. They're scary, they're emotional. We just don't want to do it.
Right.
But it's so critical in having healthy relationships. And so we wanted to just kind of dissect it a little bit and hopefully make it feel a little less scary and a little more like positive.
Absolutely. And I think just even one thing with this, even to frame up the conversation, because it's like, okay, a crucial conversation, what does that mean? So it's a coworker, or it's someone that reports to you, or it's a boss, or it's a close friend, or it's a family member that you're in business with, that you just feel this, like there's a tension, there's a rub, there's like something coming. And maybe you're in this space where like, hey, it's business, it's not personal. I remember we had a conversation with someone who we were in business with who totally just screwed us over and said, hey, guess what? It's business. It's not personal. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't do business with people I don't know, like, and trust. It's always personal. It's always personal. So if you're in business with anyone besides just yourself, you're going to have moments where you have to have these crucial conversations. They will determine the future alignment of your relationship, A, then B, that person's relationship to your business or your relationship to their business.
Yeah.
So it really is an art. So let's talk about a couple, I guess, key, like when you're approaching something, like, oh my gosh, I'm sensing I have to have this crucial conversation, this critical conversation with someone. I feel it, but how do I do that? Let's share some tools.
Well, the first thing is to just do it. Right? Like, okay, so we know that something's misaligned. We know that there's tension in this relationship or somebody's not performing within their role at work, whatever it is. And we're aware of it. And we're usually aware of it for quite a while.
Can I say a little secret?
Yeah.
If we're aware of it, generally they're aware of it as well.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not like most often if you have to be like, hey, you're not performing well, they're like, what? Then you're like, okay, you don't really get it.
Yeah. So we usually allow the situation to go on much longer than we really should. If you're having that growing sense of dread or anxiety or just resistance towards someone or towards like a topic, you should be having a conversation about, if you're feeling that way, like that's a sign that you need to just have the conversation. The longer that we allow ourselves to kind of like look at that frog that we need to eat, the worse that it becomes. We work ourselves up more emotionally. We let that anxiety about it seep in. And that actually hinders our ability to approach the conversation in an even keel kind of way. And so when you're beginning to feel like, I don't know if I should talk to them about this, and you have all those emotions like underlying, like that's a sign that yes, you need to have a conversation.
And I think generally the longer that you wait, I know for me personally, like there's been times where I've had to have these hard conversations and a lot of them have been like working people off a team or trying to get that person into the right alignment. This is an indicator for me personally. I lose sleep. If I lose sleep over a team member or an employee, that's when I know like, okay, I have to have a conversation with this person. Personally, that's like my first indicator, A. Then B, what happens is I'll ruminate and where I'll have the conversation 100 times in my head before I have the actual conversation. And so ultimately what happens is the longer it takes me to get from the I have to have this conversation to actually having the conversation, I'm the one that pays. It hurts me more because I'm ruminating, I'm fixating, I'm focused, I'm all these things on something. If I just had the conversation, I mean, let's just get it out of the way. And so let's talk about some of the tools that we would use to essentially have the conversation. Like your point, like just have it. Okay, what's a tool that we can utilize for that?
Yeah. So I would say number one is look at conversations, crucial conversations, as opportunities to strengthen your relationship or the alignment that you have with someone. The reason why that's tool number one is because I do really believe that the attitude or the intention that you go into a conversation with really will have a big impact on how that conversation, like the result of it, how it goes. Usually your imagination is very negative. You are typically imagining it going poorly.
Yep.
And so the more that you're rehearsing that in your head, you're literally training yourself to approach this person and this conversation in a really defensive manner because you've already played it through like multiple times with them blowing up at you or, you know, whatever you're fearful of. Like you've imagined that. Look at crucial conversations as an opportunity to improve and strengthen the relationship and frame it up that way in your mind. Really take some time to strategize prior to the conversation of like, how could this be a win-win for both of us? Even if it is working somebody off of a team, how could the result be win-win? What would it take?
And even if that person does end up like being worked off the team, how do you do it in such a positive manner that like you would still like, I mean, it's always idealistic to be like, we're still friends from the standpoint of like, we're still professional. We're still kind. I see him at a conference. I see him someplace and it's like, I don't have to like duck and run because it went so poorly. It can be like, hey, how are you? How's your new role? How are you adjusting? How is your family? Like you still have a relationship with that person moving forward. And so I think about this, like one phrase that like, you know, when you're talking about like, the idea of not rehearsing it because then you're in a defensive stance. I heard this phrase years ago and I love it. It said, when you're in a space like that, like seek to win the heart, not the argument.
Yep.
Right? Because you could win the argument and still lose. And so you're like, okay, it's about winning the heart. Like, how do I retain the relationship, even if I don't retain the teammate, if that makes sense?
Yep.
And so if you approach it from that standpoint, then what you're going to do is you're not going to be elevated. You're not going to be defensive. Your posture, your tone of voice, it is going to be more relaxed and be like, hey, this is just a conversation. This isn't like I'm coming at you. I'm not accusatory. And I think that's another one we should talk about, just like eliminating accusatory verbiage. Like you did, or you didn't, or you never, or you always.
Yeah. I mean, that truly is like tip number 2.
Yeah.
Take that out of your vocabulary, because if you're going into a crucial conversation accusing someone of everything that they're doing, that's putting them on the defensive immediately. And you're no longer like on the same side, like, hey, we both want the same thing, or we both want a good outcome, or we both at the very least care about each other. We may not work together anymore, but I care about you as a human, right? There should always be some common ground that we can find with someone. And we want to find that common ground with them right away, saying, I know we both feel this way.
Yeah.
So how do we get there, right? If we're coming in with that accusatory language, we're pushing them away. We're driving a wedge, and we no longer are on common ground working towards the same thing. Now they're on the defense. How is that ever
It doesn't
productive?
work well. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, once someone's on the defense, then it's like, oh my gosh, you almost have to work to like bring their walls down and then have the conversation. So accusatory language just blows up the whole thing walking in. So just being super careful to not use phrases like you always, you never, things like that are like, well, that's not actually true. You're just a little emotionally triggered. If you say you always, you never, like that doesn't help anyone. And so eliminating accusatory verbiage and words.
And I know this is so basic, and I'm sure everybody's heard that before, but it's just a good reminder. And of course, you're replacing it with like, okay, what's your experience? How did you feel? You know, like I felt really, hurt when this happened.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you always do this.
Yes.
And that ticks me off. Yeah.
And I think with that, like one of the things that goes along with that as well is oftentimes if you are using accusatory language, then you think that you're in the correct or the proper or the right position.
Yes.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And I think just another step or another tool in this is owning up to where you've dropped the ball, where you've missed it.
Yeah.
Right. Whenever there's a relationship, a working relationship, there's two people, right? It takes two to tango. And so part of it could be you going into it and you're assuming that they know something and they're acting different than what they know. And then you get in the conversation, like they might not have known. Part of it has to be you looking like, have I trained them properly? Do they know the full scope of their job, of what's required of them? Do they understand that? If they don't understand that, well, then there's a gap, right? And you may have to own that because maybe you didn't train them properly. Maybe you didn't communicate properly. So even going into the conversation, it takes two to tango in owning your part, owning your error.
Yep. So when you take ownership of what you've done, you're part of the conflict, the tension, whatever it is, that is like extremely disarming for them. And if you're the one like bringing up or initiating this whole conversation, I would say try to own something first. Because that really creates this like safer environment for them to then own like, oh, wow, I appreciate you owning your part in it. Okay. Yeah, I can do the same. I can, acknowledge that I really messed up, as well. So it disarms all parties.
An
really
example
quickly.
of that recently, you and I were in a conversation with a person and the person was pretty frustrated with personally my level of communication. I wasn't as responsive as I could be, whether it be a text or an email or a Slack or whatever form of communication it was. They were frustrated at my lack of responsiveness. And we talked about it once and twice. And then in this moment, they were clearly very frustrated. And I said, you know what? I apologize because honestly, like for me, I've always had issues with communication. It slips out of my mind or I read something and then I start thinking through it and not responding. And so by me saying, I'm so sorry, this has been a long-standing issue for me that I'm figuring out and I apologize that you've had to deal with it. It was amazing to see that person's like, because they were pretty frustrated. And I said, I'm so sorry. Even their body language just kind of relaxed. Like, oh, okay, you see this. And not only do you see this, you actually are owning your part of it. Because I think sometimes I might see it, but then I'm going to defend myself. Oh yeah, well you didn't. Oh yeah, well you didn't do this. Oh yeah, well blah, blah. And it's just like, it's like this tit for tat thing. And like, don't do that because that gets you nowhere.
Yep.
That gets you nowhere. It's like you might win the argument, but ultimately you lose. And so to your point,
So I
owning
think
it.
that's another piece where it's like acknowledging that there is an emotional component and then like a practical component and both need to be addressed. We can't just move to solving the issue without just acknowledging like how they're feeling, how our actions have made them feel, or if you felt hurt, how their actions have made you feel. Like those things need to be acknowledged and talked about. Otherwise, if it's just jumping to a solution right away, you've only solved half of the issue.
I think that's a great point as well. If you think about the emotional and practical, oftentimes there is an emotional issue and we solve it practically, or we attempt to. Like we immediately start brainstorming like, well, okay, how do we fix this? And really the first fix is actually like active listening and being like, oh my gosh, I hear what you're saying. And I'm so sorry that the way I've acted, that it's caused this much frustration for you, or it's caused you to feel this way. I mean, you speak emotionally before you get practical, because otherwise, like you can practically fix an issue, but you really haven't fixed the relational challenge.
Yep.
So I think that's a great point.
So there's just some nuggets for you in, helping prepare you for your next crucial conversation. I can't stress enough how important it is to just have it versus putting it off. This is something I see really often in coaching a lot of my business clients. Like they'll have somebody who's not performing within their role and they don't want to face the issue. They don't want to bring this up for all the reasons we talked about in the beginning. And so they just let it go. They kind of, turn a blind eye, whatever, until it gets so big because it's happened so many times that they are just upset with this person. They just want to fire them. They don't even want to have a conversation. They don't want to help them try to get there. It's just like, it's over. right? We let it get so big. And at that point, that isn't going to be a fun conversation for anyone. It is really hard to see how it's going to be a win-win. We've kind of lost that opportunity. It's just so important to jump on things earlier when it almost feels silly to have the discussion, because that's when it's not big. And that's when we can easily find a win-win and we can easily work through it. And we're just laying that groundwork for a healthy relationship.
One more practical thing is whenever possible, have the conversation in person. I know we live in a world where we'll jump on a Zoom or we'll jump on a call or whatnot, but being in the same room, in the same space with the person, being able to see their body language and them see your body language, it makes all the difference. It goes from like, okay, tactical, professional to like personal. Like that is a person in front of you and you want to present yourself as a person as well. And so being in that space, being able to read if their arms are crossed or they're shifting or they're leaning back or they're twitching, whatever it might be, but being in the same space is honestly so incredibly important. So if possible, do that. Make it a point to be in the same exact space when you're having the conversation.
Yeah.
I really hope this helps. I know that you're all in a space where maybe you have one of these. And like Ali mentioned, if you have a conversation, but it's crucial, but it's not critical yet, have it. Have it as soon as possible. Write some of these things down. Like think through these tools. Okay, what's the part I can own? What are words I don't want to use? I want to be in the same space. What's a win-win? Like thinking through these and then have the conversation. Whenever you have the conversation, every time we've had a conversation, it's created the right alignment. Either that person is bought in even more, or it's clear that like it's their time to leave or my time to leave. And so I encourage you, do not miss the opportunity to have this conversation. It'll be so clarifying and so incredibly helpful. So I hope it helps.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.